Welcome to the Randy Karraker Show, and we are presented by DraftKings, where the crown is yours. Everything at STL Sports Central, presented by DraftKings with the great Matthew Rocchio. I am Randy Karraker, and it is great to have you with us here on the YouTube, and you can follow us on the socials as well. I am on the Twitter machine, or the X machine, if you prefer to call it that, at Randy Karraker, on the old Facebook at RJ Karraker, and you are at Matt Rocchio on the face tube, aren't you?
On the FaceTube?
Yeah.
On the Facebook, yeah, I'm Matthew Rocchio. On the Twitter tweets, it's ROCCSTL, Rock STL.
Rock STL, because he is the Rock. We got a lot to cover today here on this edition of the program. And we're going to start with the coaching carousel and just the fact that we are just such big fans of Jeff Landry, the governor of the great state of Louisiana, who is evidently unhappy with the fact that his athletic director at LSU, Scott Woodward, is part of a group that fired a coach that they're going to have to pay $54 million to go away. Now, is Jeff Landry completely aware of how athletic department funding works? Probably not. Is he aware of who represents different coaches in college football and maybe even players? Maybe not. But he doesn't let that get in the way of a good opinion, which is pretty entertaining. It was pretty interesting yesterday. Now, let's start with this. I don't want to bury the lead here, Matthew. And that is this, because there was a piece this morning by Adam Rittenberg at ESPN.com putting coaches with programs. And one of the things that was said there in that piece was that Eli Drinkwitz would probably want out of Missouri now. Because the schedule is going to be tough next year and really tough in 2027. And one observer and an industry source said that this is the time for Eli Drinkwitz to get out. I talked to a Mizzou source who told me that Drinkwitz has not broached that subject of leaving the University of Missouri with Missouri at this stage. And to quote the source, said, "We will do whatever it takes to keep Eli Drinkwitz, and we have whatever it takes to keep him." Now, if I'm Eli Drinkwitz and I can go 9-4, 10-3, and I can keep my job and be relatively comfortable and try to do better next year, I think I'd rather have that situation where you go 9-4 and 10-3 and get whacked. And then you're looking for a job again, and you probably aren't going to wind up with a job as good as the University of Missouri job. I get why Eli Drinkwitz would be connected with these other jobs. I could even understand if Drink would want to go to a place where national championships have been won before. Florida, I would not touch LSU now, but I could understand it. That being said, I think if you look long-term, if you play the long game, if you're Eli, do you have a better chance of staying long-term and building a great program at Missouri based on recent history? That's Gary Pinkel, Barry Odom, Drinkwitz. Or do you have a better chance of staying long-term and building a sustainable championship program at the University of Florida? I think the recent history tells us that you have a better chance, maybe not to win a national championship, but at least to stick around and build a program at Mizzou.
Yeah, and I think we've seen plenty of struggling from Florida coaches who, despite the fact they have the recruiting backyard and all those things, they can't turn it around because whatever the reasoning is. And listen, I'll say it, all things equal, I get why people say that Florida is a better job. But I can't get away from everything you're talking about, which is just the job security is completely different. The ability to actually have a long-term plan is completely different. It sets up completely different. It changes how everything you handle. And fine, yeah, the backyard's better, but as long as you can get kids in and pay them NIL money, then that's what matters.
There you go. That's the key. It doesn't matter where a kid grew up anymore. A kid from Sarasota, Florida, that is offered $50,000 a year by Florida and is offered $100,000 a year by Missouri, that kid's going to Missouri. Players are in it for the money now. And just go back, and I use this all the time, but I think it's appropriate to use. When Nick Saban talked to Congress a few years ago about NIL and the transfer portal, he said the reason that he left is because they had recruits over to his house, and Miss Cherry, his wife, came up and said, "What are we doing here?" He said, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "Well, it used to be that players wanted to come here to play football, become better men, win national championships, go to the NFL." He said, "Now all I'm hearing from these kids is how much money am I going to get?" That's where we are in college football. It's not about where do I have the best chance to win, although that's a big part of it. It's not about what gets me closest to home. It's about where do I get the most money? And I think that's really important for everybody to keep in mind here. Doesn't matter. The Mizzou, remember the kid Miles McVay, really good offensive lineman out of East St. Louis a few years ago?
Mm-hmm.
He didn't go to Mizzou because they couldn't pay him as much.
Yeah, that's a good point.
He went to Alabama because they paid him. And he's not the only one. Why do you think Ryan Wingo isn't at Mizzou, but he's at Texas? Because Mizzou wouldn't pay him as much. They didn't want to give him as much as Luther Burden was making at the time. They didn't want to make Wingo their highest paid receiver. That's why it all really ultimately comes down to money.
And let's just actually break down Rittenberg's point here. So he's saying that they've capitalized on the SEC schedule across their past 2 campaigns, but Drinkwitz hasn't beaten a ranked opponent in the league. Next season, the Tigers will visit Georgia and Ole Miss. They will host Texas, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, and Florida. Mm-hmm. So here's the thing. They've gone down to the Swamp and they've beat Florida before. They beat Oklahoma last year. They've given Georgia some pretty close games while they've been one of the top ranked teams in the nation. And they've beaten Ole Miss before. Now, they weren't really good, but nonetheless. And as I keep pointing out, you want to focus on the 1-7 in top 10 games, then you can't ignore just what Alabama and Georgia were for 5 of those losses.
Right.
And yeah, you can say, well, then why do you want to keep a coach who can't beat a number 1 or 2 team? And I would say, are you delusional? And so that's Rittenberg's point here on the ESPN article. And I just don't even see or agree with that line of thinking. If the only thing you're going to use is just he hasn't beaten a ranked opponent in the league, that just seems like a weird lean for Drinkwitz, is that your supposition is that he can't beat ranked opponents with Missouri teams. But that would tell me that you haven't really watched or paid attention to a lot of the Missouri games against top 10 teams, because it's not like they're getting blown out every week.
Right. And so if that is the case, if you haven't beaten ranked teams, how would John Sumrall ever get a job, the Tulane head coach? How would Lane Kiffin have gotten jobs before he got to Ole Miss? He wasn't beating anybody when he was at USC. He wasn't beating anybody at, was it FAU or FIU that he was at? Florida Atlantic, right?
Yes.
Yeah. He wasn't beating any top 10 teams there. I think where you find the teams that consistently beat top 10 teams, that's at Ohio State, that's at Georgia, that's at Alabama. There's probably like 4 schools and 4 coaches that have done that on a consistent basis. And if that is going to be your critique of Eli Drinkwitz, I think that it's pretty misguided, because, for example, everybody seems to agree that James Franklin is a great coach, but one of the reasons he got fired at Penn State is because he wasn't consistently beating the top 10 teams. Well, you know what? Urban Meyer won like 91% of his games, and Ryan Day has had the same statistic at Ohio State. Ohio State is a behemoth in college football and have been for a long time. And nobody's beaten them consistently except for Jim Harbaugh and the residue of the Harbaugh program at Michigan. Otherwise, they don't get beat. Even to this point, at least, Curt Cignetti has not beaten Ohio State. Oregon is in the league now, and he has gone up and beaten Oregon. But Oregon is an absolute power. It's not a disgrace to lose to Ohio State and lose to Oregon now and then. Those are really great programs. Would you like to beat them on a regular basis? Yes. Would you like to win a national championship? Yes. Here's the thing. James Franklin last year was 4 quarters away from getting to the national championship game, and he still got whacked this year. Let's see how much better they do than that.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice. We're going to get Indiana in that Curt Cignetti answer this year, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, and by the way, I've mentioned this to you, everybody I talk to about college football, if for whatever reason Eli Drinkwitz would depart the University of Missouri, if I am Laird Veach, and I know Laird Veach is the guy who promoted Ryan Silverfield at Memphis, he would be the logical guy for Veach to call. I would hope that Laird Veach's first call would be to James Franklin if he would lose Eli Drinkwitz. because he's a great coach. He got Vanderbilt to a couple of 9-win seasons before that was pre transfer portal and pre NIL.
What about some of the
James Franklin can coach?
What about some of the post-firing reporting that it wasn't just the results on the field that caused the early trigger? There were people in the Penn State organization who had become very grated on by his personality and his leadership style.
Tough. You know,
we just saw this thing with Hamilton. We saw what happened with Schilt, though. I mean,
yeah, but
is there going to be a long-term, like, are you risking the long-term plan by hiring a guy who just found out that 10 years in he was starting to grade on people?
10 years in.
I know it's 10 years in.
People figured it out.
Yeah.
So maybe what graded?
Well, no. 10 years in, he started losing enough that it.
There you go.
Material enough.
There you go.
On.
So we know he can coach, and I do think that sometimes, and especially in this era, and we talked about this off the air yesterday, there is a large group of people that just can't abide a desire for excellence on the part of some. For example, I don't think Tony La Russa would be a popular manager right now because of his
wouldn't at all.
Yep, his insistence on excellence and doing things the right way. There's no way Vince Lombardi could coach now. Dick Vermeil says he could not coach now, and it's in part because of the level of access you have to the players, but also the lack of ability on the part of many people to accept a demand for excellence. And I have to believe that's part of what a guy like, as an example, James Franklin runs into. I wouldn't be surprised if Nick Saban were still coaching, if he were still running into that too.
Craig Lewis, could it be, no matter how much we, the fans, believe otherwise, that maybe Mizzou is simply not a top 10 program, no fault of Drinks?
Absolutely.
I don't believe that. I don't believe there's any parameters.
They're not a top 10.
There's money's a parameter, but if you have the money, and Mizzou right now has a pretty good amount of money, you can become a top 10 program in college football.
You can
look at Oregon
ranked in the top 10, but is Mizzou, from a program standpoint, better than Alabama?
No.
Better than Georgia?
No.
Better than LSU?
No.
Better than Texas?
No.
Oklahoma? Ohio State? Michigan? Oregon?
No. But Oregon's in there now.
I know that, but it took them a long time.
20 years and a lot of money.
Yep. Notre Dame.
Yeah, unfortunately, get in the conference.
Yeah. We want them to get in, but so you've got the Big Ten, you've got Ohio State, and I'm not even including Indiana because that's not a real blue blood program, right? But Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame, Texas, Oklahoma, Alabama, Georgia. Did I say Ohio State? Yeah. A&M over the course of time has been a stronger program. Is Mizzou a top 20 program, top 25? Absolutely. But I think if you're going, I think you're kind of out of touch if you're thinking that Mizzou is a program that people around the country perceive as a consistent top 10 program. They're never ranked. Yeah. They've been ranked in the top 15 4 times in history.
Yeah, that's fair. Gator alumnus here, not sold on Drink. Moreover, thinking the money guaranteed these days is insane. How freaking complicated can coaching be? I pay based on performance and search for a young maverick.
You are just like the governor of Louisiana. Well, here's the thing. If you're going to get a great coach, that's what the going rate is. It's supply and demand. It's economics that we all learned in 5th grade. Ryan Day is very expensive. And that is what you have to do. Is you have Kurt Signetti has become very expensive. Dan Lanning has become very expensive. The coaches that are at the top of the game are the coaches that are making the most money. And you might think it's too much, but at one point, Nick Saban was the highest paid public servant, air quotes, in the state or in the country, in the United States of America. And his governor said that he was a bargain.
Mm-hmm.
Coaches that make a lot of money make the institution and make the state a lot of money too.
Well,
so they aren't overpriced.
While we're talking about the government side of things, let's talk about LSU.
Yeah, LSU is great. Do we have the
yes, we
video?
Yep.
This is Jeff Landry, their governor, yesterday at a press conference talking about the fact that a lot of people are going to be prevented from eating because funding from the federal government isn't there. That's what this press conference was about. But naturally, somebody asked him about Brian Kelly because he got involved on Sunday night in the firing of Brian Kelly.
The first question is absolutely correct. We are not going down a failed path. And I wanted to tell you something. This is a pattern. The guy that's here now that wrote that contract cost Texas A&M $70-something million. Right now, we got a $53 million liability. We are not doing that again. And you know what? I believe that we're going to find a great coach. I mean, maybe we'll let President Trump pick it. He loves winners. You know, I'm not going to be picking the next coach. But I can promise you, we're going to pick a coach, and we're going to make sure that that coach is successful. And we're going to make sure that he's compensated properly. And we're going to put metrics on it. Because I'm tired of rewarding failure in this country and then leaving the taxpayers on the foot, to foot the bill. So, yeah, I absolutely. Who's that? No. I can tell you right now, Scott Woodward is not selecting the next coach. Hell, I'll let Donald Trump select it before I let him do it. I don't know, but the Board of Supervisors is going to come up with a committee, and they're going to go find us a coach. Because, wait, I want to hold on. One real quick thing on that. Because here's what y'all reporters need to do. Y'all need to start looking at who represents all these people, like these agents. You know what's interesting? If I'm not mistaken, Woodward's agent, Kelly's agent, the Texas A&M, they're all the same agent. Like, you realize if I would be, I don't know how many sports writers we got here today? Just you. We should have a bunch. Okay? Like, this is ridiculous. Lawyers would be disbarred for the way these agents act and the way they're able to represent. In fact, there's no doubt, they may even represent some of the players now. Like, it's really time for the NCAA to put on some guardrails in college sports. Because, and it's fine. We don't need the guardrails. If big billionaires want to spend all that kind of money, no problem. But if I got to go find $53 million from Kemp, it's not going to be a pleasant conversation. I'm just telling you. I know. And I think that that's important as well. Y'all should start looking into that. Okay.
Now, first of all, I'm so happy that the populace of the great state of Louisiana has elected Bobby Boucher as their new governor.
I can see where you're going with on that one. Yeah, it does have a Texas have a little bit of Bobby Boucher-ness to it.
Now let's start with this. Talked about the agents. Jimmy Sexton is the agent for Jimbo Fisher, who Scott Woodward hired at Texas A&M, and Trace Armstrong, former Bears defensive end, is the agent for Brian Kelly, who just got the $54 million. So he's wrong on that. Apparently, from what I understand, he's wrong on the idea of him having to come up with the $54 million to pay Brian Kelly, because the LSU athletic department is a separate entity altogether from the government. They are basically privately funded, and boosters will pay that $54 million. And he just eviscerated Scott Woodward, his athletic director, said he's not going to hire the next guy. If I'm Scott Woodward, I'm just hanging out and waiting until he fires me.
Yeah, why not?
You don't resign. Take the money.
Yeah, that's what he's good at. We are not going down a failed path. Sigh. The Gators are on a 4-coach losing streak. Did he just say taxpayers foot the bill? Say it ain't so. This guy's a trip. All the best. Love the show.
Great. I love it. It's this is just because of the way the inflection. Wait. Who are these agents? Who are these agents for these coaches? I love this.
Full foghorn leghorn at that point.
Yeah.
Robert Mensch says, for those new to college football, please explain how a school comes to be labeled as a blue blood program. And in this new age, why can't newly winning schools be considered? Well, the issue is, so blue blood is a more colloquial way of saying old money.
Yeah, there you go.
So that's why when he listed all those blue blood programs, the top 10 programs, there's one new money program in there, and that's Oregon.
Yeah.
And they are the definition of new money because that is Phil Knight, that's Nike, that's all the money.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else in the SEC, all those other teams you heard there, old money schools. Yeah. They've been playing football at the highest level for 150 years, and they're going to keep on doing it.
And that's one of the things.
So you can't be a blue blood. So being a blue blood, again, to his point, is you have to be a good team that consistently hits top 5, top 10, even number 1 rankings, plays in a national championship, and you have to do all of that in a 20-year period while also having the best marketing game in the country. And that's if you're Oregon, and that's how you become a blue blood.
So it's schools that, and here's the way you can look at it. You can go back to the old Wikipedia. It's 2025. Go back to 1975. Go back to 50 years ago and look at the college top 20. And you'll see a lot of schools in the college top 20 from 50 years ago that are in there right now. The Alabamas of the world. Florida State's not in there now, but Florida State's a blue blood. Georgia, LSU, Michigan, Oklahoma, Miami, Notre Dame, Texas, Ohio State, Tennessee. USC's not there right now, but they're still a blue blood. And I might even go so far as to include Nebraska in there.
Oh.
Although they need to, it's been a while now, ever since they went to the Big Ten, since Nebraska. But if you go back and you look at the top 20s from 1965 to 1975, a lot of those same schools are still in the top 20 now. And by the way, it was top 20 until maybe 15 years ago. Then they switched to the top 25. But those are the blue bloods. Penn State has been good for a long time. They had a lull and they bounced back.
Oh, yeah.
Florida has been kind of a roller coaster ride. They really weren't great until Steve Spurrier got there. There are a host of blue bloods. So for the new college football fan, and thank you very much for asking the question, that's what we're talking about. The schools that have had great programs for a long time. Back in the 40s, the president at the University of Oklahoma was talking to the state legislature about funding. And somebody said, what do you envision Oklahoma looking like under your watch? And the president of the University of Oklahoma said, we want to build a university that our football program can be proud of. and that's what you want. That's a blue blood right there.
And that day we turned a path that we have never stopped walking down.
No, it's great. And that doesn't bother me at all. And it'd be nice to be able. So when you say that Mizzou is not a top 10 program, might be a top 10 team now and then, but not a top 10 program. And there's a difference between a program and a team.
It's unfortunately fair.
Yeah. So I don't have any problem with it. And I don't have any problem with this either. NFL fans, what's your favorite touchdown? For me, it's the next one. No. Because with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, every touchdown could bring you closer to cashing in. From first touchdown score to anytime TD props or the thrill of live in-game betting, every snap is loaded with opportunity. There are amazing lines available this weekend. I mean, you've got the Chiefs and the Bills, right? 2.5. And you've got our buddy Patrick Mahomes. I think he's minus 220 to throw a couple of touchdown passes. That's actually, it's good value this week. To throw 3, I think he's plus 150. And I'll take Mahomes to get a couple, and I'll go minus 220 on that. I'm happy with it.
Bet, yeah.
And the best part is new customers bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Your team hitting pay dirt pays out to you. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code STL Sports. That's code STL Sports for new customers to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY at 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive reward. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
All right. The Cardinals have announced staffing changes according to, well, they will announce staffing changes for next year. And Katie Wu says that we should not expect Yadier Molina to be part of the big league staff, which isn't a surprise. The Cardinals are essentially bringing back the same big league staff under Oli Marmol. Yadi offered to work in the minor leagues. I will be interested to see two things. A, if the Cardinals offer, and B, if that offer is accepted by one Yadier Molina to kind of cut his teeth as a coach and pay his dues before he makes it to the major leagues in that endeavor.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the opportunity is there. If you want to get started, we know how we can make this work, but the announcement didn't surprise me. I'm not sure why anybody would have been surprised the way that we were talking about it. Again, the hope is still there. I would be very happy if there was another piece of reporting connected to this, but we'll see.
What piece of reporting?
Just that he's gonna, he's got
that he would accept it.
Yeah, that he's gonna accept it, or he's got some other, situation figured out where he's gonna, be here in the spring, but he isn't ready for the full-time summer commitment. It shows some progress.
I remember when a hockey player was making more than $1 million a year and retired and went into broadcasting. And in the broadcasting interview, they said, "How much do you want to make?" He said, "Well, $1 million a year." And they kind of laughed and said, no, that's not going to happen. And so he wound up getting the job, but not for $1 million a year. I think there is a lack of the concept of reality for a lot of athletes because of the amount of money they make while they are athletes. And that's going to be the same thing for a guy like Yadi. Now, we don't know why Albert didn't wind up as the Angels manager. They said it was an issue with money and years. Albert, if you haven't heard, had a 9.5-hour interview with the Padres. I'll be interested to see if they're willing to pay him as a premium manager. He's not going to make what he made as a player. Heck, he had a $100 million contract, then a $240 million contract, and then the $10 million personal services deal. And even in his last year here, he made $2.5 million. I would be surprised, even the Padres, if they would pay $2 million for a first-time manager.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, why would you?
I can't imagine that Mike Schilt was making that much, right?
I think it was probably around that.
Yeah. Now, does he need the money? No. He might think that he needs to make more than the players, but they aren't going to pay him more than they're paying Machado or Tatis or Yu Darvish or Bogarts or any of those guys. So I think that he's probably going to have to accept a financial package that is lower than anything he's had since he was 22 years old, or maybe even before that. But he might be that that desirous of a job, a major league managing job, that he would take it at a reasonable cost just so that he can prove himself. I think that there's a lot more drive to prove himself as a manager / coach in Albert than there is in Yadi. Just reading the tea leaves and seeing that Yadi, he had the opportunity to come here a lot and be around the team as a special assistant to the president of baseball operations and was never around the team. Think of what difference he could have made if he would have come in and said, "Yeah, I want to work with the catchers. Yeah, I want to be around the team. Yeah, I want to learn about what it takes to be a coach at the major league level." But he never showed up. He showed up once when he had a card show in town and he was invited by Ali Marmol. But otherwise, he didn't show up. So, you know what's interesting? When you look at even spring training, Albert showed up more for the Cardinals than Yadi did. And Albert wasn't employed by the Cardinals.
Would it shock you if he's not the manager of the Padres? Just because of the 9.5 hours and all that?
Yeah. I wonder maybe they were telling stories. I don't know. Or maybe they were talking about staff. Yeah. But they already know Nick Hundley really well. He's one of the other finalists. So I kind of think that Albert has the inside track simply because of what we're discussing here, because of the 9.5 hours. But their pitching coach is one of the finalists, along with Nick Hundley. Ruben Niebla is their pitching coach. I also wonder if they talk about staff, what Albert wants to do. Does he want to bring in Yadi as a coach? Does he want to bring back Mark McGwire as a coach? Yadi and Mark McGwire have a really tight relation. Albert and Mark McGwire have a really tight relationship. McGwire already has worked for the Padres, has a great relationship with AJ Preller, their general manager. Maybe they were talking as much about staff as they were about strategy.
Maybe. Moving on, I don't know about you, but I had a thought as I was watching the World Series game last night, and it was, oh wow, calling up rookies can really work out.
It can.
Matt Yasavage pitched 3 games for the Blue Jays in the regular season. He has been lights out for them in the postgame, of course, last night, making history for a first-year player with 12 strikeouts as he mows down the Dodgers all-star lineup, including an 0-for-4 performance from Shohei Ohtani.
Who was the last rookie to win a World Series game before this guy? Who was it?
So Adam Wainwright?
No. Anthony Reyes, perhaps?
Oh, my God.
2006?
Oh, my God.
That's a Cardinal.
Oh, my
Tony
God.
La Russa going against a stellar lineup in the Detroit Tigers. Yeah.
That's insane.
How about that?
But I just, you have the Blues calling up Dvorsky today. You had that happen yesterday. All I had on my mind was, hey, calling up your biggest name rookies does seem like a good idea.
If they're ready. Yep. And they clearly, this guy, Yasevich,
4.18 ERA in AAA this year.
but he started in A ball.
He did start in A ball. You're right.
And he worked his way through the system. By the way, if you haven't heard, his first game in A ball this year, he pitched before 340 people. If you hadn't heard that, just wanted you to get that little bit of information.
I had the majority of the broadcast on mute last night. Were they mentioning it every 5 minutes? Yeah, okay,
pretty much. Yeah,
Jesus.
So, but he's something. He has great stuff. And yes, and Matthew, this is going to become more and more of a young man's game. And we're seeing that with the Cardinals. And it's unfortunate that it's happening with position players too that don't really know about playing a winning game. By the way, if you get an opportunity, watch the interview that I did on Card Central 365 with Matt Adams. It's great, and he talks a lot about that stuff. But because of the shortened draft, which used to be 50 rounds, it used to be as long as you wanted. Mike Piazza was a 62nd round pick. But because of the shortened draft, now only being 20 rounds, and fewer minor league players, so the Cardinals used to have 6 minor league outposts. Now they have 4. So you have roughly 100 minor leaguers as opposed to you used to have 150. So there was more competition to make it to the majors. Now teams want to make their investment in a first-round draft choice feel like it's worthwhile, so they get guys to the majors more quickly. And like a guy like Yasevich, he doesn't have to pass as many people going through the minor league system. So I think we'll see more and more situations in Major League Baseball where a youngster like Yasevich works his way through the system and makes it to the majors. I was a little bit surprised last year that the Cardinals minor league pitcher of the year, and by the way, their minor league player of the year, Jimmy Crooks, did make it to the majors as a very young player. But wouldn't you have thought that if you have a minor league pitcher of the year, and I granted he got hurt with the shoulder, but wouldn't you think that at some point, because of the speed with which minor leaguers are rushed through systems now, that the Cardinals would get on board with that?
You would think that would be a pretty easy process to jump on board with and say, listen, this is kind of how we're going to set things up. I would like it.
Yeah.
I love uniformity, though.
I do too. And Matthews, by the way, we mentioned he was hurt, although I was told that the injuries weren't affecting his performance. Something happened to his command from the beginning of 25 to the end of 25 that caused him to not be the pitcher that he was in 24. But I think next year, let's take a look at next year, where you spent the 7th pick in the draft. No, 5th pick in the draft on Liam Doyle.
Oh, Liam Doyle.
Yeah. So if you spent the 5th pick in the draft on that guy, and he pitched in college, he pitched for a great coaching staff against great competition, I would be shocked with the new administration if Doyle didn't make his major league debut in 2026.
Yeah, everything's just building up. It makes a lot of sense to give it to him again. You're not playing for a lot this year. I know some people are going to hate hearing that, but that's the reality that I'm operating in.
Yep.
And when you're operating in that reality, you play your young players.
Let's be real. And people were talking on one of the social medias about the Cardinals signing Kyle Schwarber. That is not happening.
No, it's not.
Okay? The Cardinals are not going to spend a bunch of money on a free agent because the rest of this team is not prepared to play that way. This is not a team in 2026 that is prepared to win. They aren't only one player away. And even within the Cardinal organization, as I've talked to people during this offseason, they agree with me that at the major league level, they don't have a great player. They have a lot of good players. Alec Burleson is a really good player. Ivan Herrera is a really good player, although he's not much of a defensive player.
Mason Wynn, earmuffs.
Mason Wynn. Mason Wynn needs to be better offensively. Wilson Contreras, good player. They have good players, but they don't have a single great player. Weatherholt might wind up being a great player. Can you make it to an LCS or a World Series without multiple great players? I don't think so. So Weatherholt might be. Schwarber's a great hitter. He would have to be your DH, by the way, where you kind of have Ivan Herrera too. But the Cardinals, I think we need to kind of take a step back because there's a lot of people that expect them, just because of the change in leadership, to compete in 2026.
God,
don't plan on that. Don't get your heart set on the Cardinals competing for playoff spots in 2026 because it's just not realistic, and it has nothing to do with Chaim Bloom or the new people that he's bringing in. It's the fact that the previous administration, we talked about this while the season was going on, they didn't get great players. They expected Gorman and Walker to be great players. They aren't. And they probably won't be. So at some point, the Cardinals are going to have to find great players, but they just don't have them right now.
You mentioned, by the way, earlier how there used to be an unlimited amount of MLB rounds in the draft. Yeah. Did you know there was an incredible article, I think it was on ESPN, it might have been in The Athletic, about breaking down how, like, back in the day, that the way that teams would use those super late rounds is they would draft like the son of a former player, the son of a coach, the nephew of the owner. Like, they would use these like crazy late round draft picks to pick people who had like played 1 year of college baseball, had never played again, but wanted to get a job with the team. So they were like, we'll just draft him right now. Yeah. Then he can say he's got drafted by the team. It's insane, the things that used to go on in like old school sports stuff.
Nobody would ever verify this for me, but Tate Matheny was a great player at Westminster. And Mike Matheny wanted him to go to college. So the Cardinals drafted Tate in the 23rd round with no real intention of ever signing him, but it prevented other teams from taking him so that he couldn't go pro. And he wound up going to Missouri State, then getting drafted by the Red Sox and being in their organization. But I think that happens too, is dad says to team, hey, I want my kid to go to college. Can you make sure that nobody else gets him? So that happened a lot. And I remember asking Mo about that when, because they were never going to sign Tate Matheny. And I said, you got Trevor Rosenthal with a 23rd round pick. Isn't that kind of a waste of a pick? And he got mad at my question, but I think it was real. I think it was fair.
I think we kind of figured out what the trigger was with the Cardinals. It was Randy saying the word waste.
Yeah, that happened a few times. Now, one other thing, if you've never heard the story, you could take back in the day as many players as you wanted. The draft was as long as you wanted it to be. Keith Hernandez, I think, was a 42nd round pick of the Cardinals. Wound up being a great player. But Tommy Lasorda was friends with Mike Piazza's dad in Philadelphia. Both of their, you get this, right? Both of their names ended with vowels, okay? So Tommy Lasorda is in the draft room.
You don't have to localize it like that. The Garagiolas and the Barras were very close friends. There you go. There's an actual one where baseball players were Italians in St. Louis together.
So as Tommy Lasorda told the story, he's in the draft room telling the people in the 62nd round from the Dodgers, hey, you got to take this Piazza kid. This Piazza kid's going to be great. But he only really wanted him taken because he was his buddies, Tommy Lasorda's buddies' son. And the scouting guy is saying, we really don't need another guy like that. And Tommy says, come on, let's take him. And the guy says, well, what position does he play? And Lasorda says, well, what position do you need? And they said, well, we need catchers. He said, then he's a catcher. And that's how Mike Piazza got drafted in the 62nd round by the LA Dodgers.
As a catcher.
Yeah.
And then played a position where great hitter.
Somebody said that.
Great hitter.
Somebody who played with Piazza told me recently, Mike Piazza and leather didn't get along. Leather glove.
That's pretty fun. That's fantastic. I like this. Randy Lewis. Randy, Craig Lewis, excuse me. Randy, all the Cardinals need is a starter or three and a righty slugger in the outfield. They probably could use a couple of Gold Glove fielders who hit for average. We only need like $500 million to make it happen.
Yeah.
Come on.
So yeah, the Cardinals are essentially really only two players away. Pujols and Carpenter in their primes.
Well, Aaron says they need a Vladdy. There's a Pujols. A Scherzer. There's a Carpenter. A Bichette, a Springer, an ace, a number 2, a number 3, and a closer.
There you go. So why? And you're 100% right. So why
you need a Scherzer and an ace and a number 2 and a number 3? You're just getting greedy, Aaron.
I think Scherzer is the veteran leader guy.
Fine.
And he might wind up in San Francisco, working with Tony Vitello to be that veteran leader guy.
Mhm.
But to your point, though, this is why we shouldn't expect the Cardinals to be a contender in 2026. What we should expect is that with new leadership, they're going to get young players here. The players are going to get better. And hopefully by 2027, if there is a 2027, we'll be able to say, okay, this is the year where these position players are ready. We hope the pitching can come through, and maybe we add something in 2027. I'm not expecting it in 2026.
Are you expecting the Blues to bounce back tonight against the Vancouver Canucks with the lineup shakeup? That's the crucial question.
No.
Oh, damn it. Six in a row?
Well, I just don't expect them to bounce back. It's
the number of the day. It really hops and kicks. The number of the day is 6.
Oh, yeah. Number of the day. We love those. Man, I'm just so disappointed. And the reason that I don't expect them to bounce back is that I won't expect them to bounce back until they bounce back. But when you have the problems that they have, and they're not talent, and that the problems appear to be based in effort, then I think that you have serious problems. And I don't know how you overcome them. I don't know how you get the guys going. And maybe they're maybe they're a little bit gun shy now because they have lost 5 in a row. But at some point, you just got to come out and just rock and roll and play your game and don't worry about other stuff. Don't play tentatively. Just go out and skate your ass off and get to the board, get forechecking, get to the boards, go into the corner, get the puck, go to the front of the net. Don't worry about a puck hitting you in the butt and going in, because that's really what you want. Man, there's so much that's involved in hockey that is simple. And I think the Blues are complicating things.
I wonder if Braden Shen being on Bucci's line makes something happen there. Monty laid it out at practice today. Dvorsky's on the second line with Kyrou and Joseph, because you got Kyrou as the top winger to roll off his playmaking, and you have Matthew Joseph, the scheme guy who covers all 200 feet, who's a fast skater and a good defender. And then the new third line is Holloway. Was it Holloway, Suter, and Sonny? He also talked about Sonny. I like this. We have a new description for Sonny.
What is it?
No longer is he the engine of the team. He was actually referred to by Monty today, a binky for a kid, because you put him anywhere on the ice and he's just going to do the right thing.
There you go.
So unfortunately, Sonny has moved on from being the engine of the team to a binky for all the young players. But when you're going from a Stanley Cup winning team to a team full of young players, you need somebody to be the binky to the babies, and that's what we got right now. So maybe the lineup shifts. Again, they're not going to get the top end talent without Robert Thomas, without Jake Neighbor. They're not going to get the top line just production. But if they can just simply produce 1 through 4, maybe they can come away with a rough one tonight.
I would love to see it. It would make me a happy camper if they could do that. By the way, I like the description of a binky. I hope Jim Montgomery's telling his guys to use a Jim Cruz and many other coaches' line. Just do the next right thing.
There you go. I like that.
Do the next right thing. But here's another thing. And weigh in here. Give us a quick chat, because we have like 6 minutes left. If the Blues were going to have a practice fight like Bortuzzo and Sanford in 2019, what 2 players would you like to see fight in practice? Like, which one that could send a message and which one needs a message? I want to hear from you, and I want to get your thoughts too. I have my thought, and I don't think we'll change it. Let's see if anybody comes up with the exact same fight that I would like, the same practice fight that I would like.
It would never happen, but like I just kind of said it. I kind of want to see Shen get in Buch's grill a little bit.
There you go.
And like I don't think he'd ever actually fight, but like Shen doing maybe it's more the Draymond KD gif.
Yeah.
Where Draymond's pointing in KD's chest and he's screaming right in his face, and he's like, "You got to get out there. You got to be you. You got to be the one who leads us." Yeah. Maybe it's more like Draymond.
I thought
KD.
you were going to go Draymond and Poole.
Well, I was not going to go that far.
Okay.
But that's an interesting one. Ace
Adams wants a goalie fight. Okay, that'd be fun. Hofer and Binner,
Binnington and Falk.
Oh, that'd be fun.
That's a good one. I like that one. That's
okay. Good. Yeah, let's get a couple more in here, because there is somebody that could use. There are players on this team that could use that spark.
I think so.
Yep.
Calabasas left foot. Milan Lucic versus
Tucker.
Taylor Tucker. It's the kind of practice scrap that ends with mutual respect, a few missing teeth, and the rest of the team skating a little faster the next day. It is interesting that it doesn't seem like it was two pretty small name guys who were part of the undoubtedly like the emotional makeup of the team. But I mean, we're talking about a fourth liner and a third pairing defenseman. Would be a very different fight with some of the things we're throwing out today.
Yeah. Doovie, you'll praise Army so much, but he's made a lot of mistakes and some good moves. But trading Bolduc and extending Booch was extremely dumb. Capital dumb. It doesn't look good right now. Although I do think that you have to remember what Armstrong said immediately after the trade and then in training camp. They are playing the long game by making the deal for Logan Mailloux. This is not something that was going to be determined, the quality of this trade, after 6 or 8 or 10 games. He said, give him 200 games to find out. You never know. I still think that physically the most gifted player on this team is Pavel Buchnevich. But you aren't wrong in saying that he has not been the same guy since he got the contract extension.
It is just a little hard to focus in and criticize a guy and being like, well, the 2 worst moves of his tenure are 10 games old. Because both of these moves are 10 games.
Yeah,
like
right.
Bucci's extension.
Yori Latero was pretty bad.
But I'm saying is the ones he's pointing out are 10.
Right,
these are moves that are 10 games old. And to react to a GM based off the 2 most recent moves he's made in his tenure would be a mistake. Yeah, there is the Yori Lateri move, but that's also on the back end of the other Yori. But that's also
and he got
before the
Shen.
other.
And he got Shen for Lateri.
Exactly. The other Yori Lateri move to get out of it, pretty good.
Yeah, it wound up being good. And yeah, I'm with you there. It's impossible to make that snap judgment on a trade. Hey, there were people that after 10 games hated Chris Pronger. Actually, they went that whole season, that 95-96 season, hating Pronger and hating, by the way, I was there, and Prongs knows this, hating the Shanahan for Pronger trade, but it wound up being a pretty good trade. And if you don't make the trade, it's still great because Shanny's a Hall of Famer too. But Pronger wound up being one of the 10 best defensemen in the history of the league, maybe even one of the 5 best in the history of the league. But he wasn't great in that first year here.
Keith Adams says Shannon, any defenseman.
That'd be interesting. Yeah, Shannon.
I thought you were going to say Shannon Falk.
Yeah.
When you were eyeing me, I thought you were going to say Shannon Falk.
No, Shannon and Bucci, by the way.
I love that.
The fact that he wants to wait 200 games makes it even dumber. Doovie, I think you should probably take a little look at the history of the league and take a little look at the history of the best defensemen in the league before you classify that as dumb.
Cole McCarr is one of the best defensemen in the league, and he was good from day one.
Was he?
I think so.
How old was he when he got to the league?
He was like 19. He was crazy young. But again, he is. I'm saying that. And I was hoping your reaction was going to be okay. Fine, pull out the one greatest anomaly in defenseman history in the NHL. There's not a lot of
really good young defensemen.
He scored 86 points as a 23-year-old, and that was his 3rd year in the league. He had 50 points in 57 games as a 21-year-old rookie.
Yeah, he's
unbelievable.
Was and is great, but I think that. Do you have his plus minus for that year?
Oh, I do. Again, he's also the 4th overall pick.
Yeah,
he was plus 12.
So pretty good.
Ooh-wee.
Yeah. So there have been guys, but Logan Mailloux was in the minors last year. I don't think anybody, any reasonable person, expected him to be great after playing 7 or 8 games last year in the National Hockey League. And if you were expecting that and you're disappointed, then I feel bad for you.
I think the other thing is here is like people just have. Everything is just so simplistic that you guys think that one thing is always true, no matter what. And the idea that every player is the same, and if Logan Mailloux isn't ready, then despite what you project his ceiling to be, then well, obviously you can't trade for him. It's the jobs of the GMs to make moves that might take a year or 2 to develop him to the absolute zenith. The reason why you have to make those moves is because if you get Logan Mailloux now, instead of trying to trade for him and sign him as an RFA in three years when he has success, you get to sign him. You get to have him now on a cheap contract and maybe sign him to a cheap first deal because you already have him in the building for like $4 million instead of on the open market where he's going to get 6. Right. But that's why you make the move now. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But if you're never going to roll the dice, then things are never going to work out. You're never going to actually improve the team and win a Stanley Cup if you're never willing to take a risk. He decided when one of my last moves before I pass this along to Steen, who will have a long leash, I'm going to make a move for the future, and I think that makes sense.
And by the way, Doug Armstrong has been the general manager and or POHO for 16 years, since 2009. I give him credit for being a smarter hockey man than I am. So I'm going to give him credit for being a smarter hockey man than you are.
One of the first time I remember people in this media people really going after Army after I rejoined the market from college. And I got here in the spring of 2013. I believe it was fall of 2016 or the summer of 2016 when he traded Jordan Elliott or Brian Elliott, excuse me. Yep. And for some reason, people freaked out on him. Like this was this giant mistake. And he would then go on after the Brian Elliott move and pretty much make like the next 12 dozen moves of his career. Pretty much almost were all bullseyes, or like the early terror point. If he screwed up one move, he found a way to fix it with a better move on the back end of it. Like he went on a run after one of the only times I saw people complain. They won a Stanley Cup, and now people want to bitch about Petro and the defenseman contracts. And listen, they have arguments there. But to your point, long career, you're always going to make mistakes. He pulled off a lot of success, a lot of playoff runs, and a Stanley Cup win. That gets you a little clout.
And I'm a huge fan of Brian Elliott. I had a dog named Moose, Lake Great Moose, awesome dog. But fact of the matter is, Brian Elliott is in his second year as a Blues coach, who, by the way, was an upcoming unrestricted free agent, and told Doug Armstrong that he wanted a number one job and wasn't going to get a number one job here because Jake Allen was going to be number one. But with Brian Elliott in his second full year as a Blues goalie coach, he got traded for Jordan Kyrou, who led your team in goals last year, and I believe has for the last 3 years. One other note that I think that we should make about Army and the moves that he has made is that he is really beholden around the league. Other general managers call him for advice.
And they should probably stop taking his calls.
Yeah, he's a mentor for a lot of young general managers too.
This is also because I saw this yesterday, and this is fascinating. Jake Allen this year has started 6 games for the New Jersey Devils. He's 5-0-0.
How about that? He's like 36 years old now, too.
Yeah, 35-year-old Jake Allen, just turned 35. Yes, he's in his third year. He got traded 2 years ago, midseason, from the Canadiens to the Devils. Last year, he had 29 starts. He went 13-16-1 with a .266 goals against average. This year, again, he's 5-0-0 in 6 games started with a .193 goals against. Go get it, Jake Allen.
Pretty good.
Good for him.
Hey, check out my interviews with both Matt Adams and Jim Thomas here at STL Sports Central. Bernie Miklas, that'll drop tomorrow.
It's tomorrow.
Good. And so we'll want to tune into that, and we will have the Randy Karraker show for you tomorrow as well. As always, great job by you, Matthew Rocchio. Thank you.
Wonderful job, Randy. Thank you.
And Wilson got us on the air. We appreciate that. We appreciate you being a part of the show. For all of us, until tomorrow, have a great Thursday. Enjoy the hockey game and Thursday Night Football, Dolphins and Ravens. And we'll see you tomorrow on STL Sports Central, presented by DraftKings, where the crown is yours.